Right.
That's all it is. Will you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll call this meeting to order on Tuesday, February 14th, 2023. I will make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda from A to Q.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries. Are any opposed? All right, motion carries. Yeah, that's all right. All right, so we'll move into public comments. Normally we give 2 minutes, but I know there's quite a few people here, so we're gonna give 3 minutes apiece, if that helps, so we could hear your guys' conversation today. Erin will be the timekeeper. And so she'll let you know when you have a minute left in your time. So we ask you to be respectful and please let us know. So who wants to kick us off?
I do, because I need to go back to work.
Okay, come on, Gwen.
Please
state your name. Please state your name and where you live, please.
Linda Baleo, live in Martin County. In the county, not the city, the county. So your land use board recently had a meeting and they were looking at approving the the international rules of putting it forward for you guys to just blanket approve. Well, in that, it has some wording about telling people what they can do with their land, such as, junk vehicles and general rubbish. Well, the problem with that is all that stuff is nothing more than what people would consider an eyesore. It doesn't hurt anyone. It's not leaving over the land. So basically, someone is trying to tell someone else what they can do with their land when it's not hurting them at all. There's always the excuse of, well, it's devaluing my property. Okay, but on the other hand, you build $1 million home and you jack up this person's taxes, and now they can't afford the taxes. And the government comes in and steals their land. So we need to be conscientious of both facts, both sides of this issue. But the fact is, the Constitution of the United States gives you the right to do whatever you wish with your land, as long as you are not impeding on someone else's land. So as long as their stuff stays on their land, it's no one else's business. I know that a lot of this is from Shadow Mountain and everybody's insulted because, oh, my neighbor's house, it's a fire hazard. Well, junk properties don't catch on fire any more than nice properties catch on fire. Same thing. They talk about, oh, well, it's a hazard for safety personnel to come in and, get somebody out. Well, that's the choice of the landowner to put themselves in that position. We have had our rights trampled enough in the last several years, and we know it, that as our representatives, not our boss, our representatives, you guys need to get serious about defending every individual's rights and not just the individual's rights that have their feelings hurt because they don't like the way somebody else looks or is performing on their property when it really doesn't hurt them at all. And the Constitution, I believe it's the 9th Amendment, states we have the right to do what we want with the land. We can go through this book and pick and choose what we want. We don't have to just generally accept it because the state thinks that's what we need to do. We need to do what's right for us. The other part of it is you guys sit there and go, oh, or some people, well, we don't really enforce this. You don't. But what happens when the next person does? All right. Just remember, if you can trample on one person's rights, you can trample on everyone's. And that's the problem now. You guys have fun. I gotta go to work.
Good luck. Thank you, Glenda.
Thank you. All right, anybody else?
Sure, I'll speak. And John Williams. I went to the same meeting Glenda did. What I find more of a problem, I guess, I agree with the majority of what she had to say, but what I'm seeing, I can't speak for 100%, but out of that planning commission, whatever it was, 3 out of the 4 on the commission are from the city, and they're proposing to tell me in the county what I can and cannot do. I don't particularly care for that. I drive by at least 2, if not 4. I'm going to call them less than desirable properties every day. I don't particularly like it, but they're not mine. There's a reason I moved to the country. I don't want somebody else making the decision of what is offensive. It always boils down to who decides. My junk may be my treasure. Your junk may be your junk. I don't know, but it's who decides is always the case. And like she said, all of you guys won't be here in 10 years. Somebody else will be sitting in your positions. Same way with the lady here. Somebody else will be in that position. And they may interpret or choose. We get bureaucratic creep, and it just is infuriating. And oftentimes somebody's just trying to justify their job. So I'm opposed to it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, not only do 3 of the 4 board members live in the town.
Please.
Allison, I live in Moffat County.
Thank you.
Your county planner also resides in the city. And right now they're working to dictate criminal punishment code to go along with this junk and rubbish ordinance. They don't own agricultural property. They don't own rural residential property, but they will be making a recommendation on what criminal code they would like to attach to an ordinance about junk and rubbish on these types of property. I don't feel like that is right at all. And it's unconstitutional for you to make this type of policy at all, like you've heard before. Please preserve our personal property rights as you have sworn to uphold the Constitution, each one of you, for us and to protect our rights. And just so the public knows, I served on the Planning and Zoning Board for 1 year. I own a rural property. I put in my letter of interest to volunteer for a new term. But the day before the new appointments were made, we had our January meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board. I came to the meeting with a different opinion, opposing this ordinance or the penalties that they want to attach to it. And the next day, you commissioners chose to appoint 2 other people and to leave a seat vacant, even though I had put in my letter of interest. And I will just let the public draw their own conclusion on why that might have happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name's Randy Armstrong. I have a house in town, but I also have property out of town. What you guys are trying to propose with this code, first of all, who's going to write the code? Then who's going to enforce it? I think that's something we need to look at because that's going to be tax dollars spent. And we have a governor who wants to defund our police force. And now you guys want to try to get funding to add to it to enforce a code that's unconstitutional. There's 4 constitutional rights that you guys are going to try to tramp on. And if you do, you will be in court because people will not put up with it anymore in this county. We will take you to the task and we will not put up with our constitutional rights being treaded on anymore. Now, that being said, I want you to understand that what you're trying to do is write a code for that's like a HOA code for the city that you cannot enforce in the county at all. And if you look up the legal rights and the legal definition of ownership for the state of Colorado, it states that I can have on my land and do what I want for my own profit, whether I want to lease it, whether I want to run a junkyard on it. The only thing I can't do is I can't run like a toxic waste dump because that's unconstitutional. Okay? I can't do something that's going to harm the land. Okay? But I can do what I want to do to make a profit on my land. And you know what? You guys can't tell me that I can't. So if you try to enforce that, the Fourth Amendment right, you have no right to come onto my land. And without a search warrant, how are you going to do that? Ninth Amendment tells me that I have a right to defend myself against such unrighteous acts. And then there are two other amendments that you need to look at very, very closely. Because I want you to understand that you cannot give me a fine for something that I have not broken the law with. That is our Seventh and our Sixth Amendments. So what you guys are doing is walking on four of our amendments, four of our constitutional rights. I just want you to say I'm opposed. And if you pass this, I guarantee there will be some legal repercussions for you individuals and as the county itself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm Dan Haskins. I live in the county. I'm concerned about this Health and Human Services grant for $10,000 to promote gun safety. I think that's a left-hand agenda aiming at gun control, and it needs to be scrutinized, because if that goes through, then they have a little thumb in your eye every time you turn around with your guns. Going to make you lock them up or whatever. I just noticed it last night. That's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add a little bit?
Go ahead.
Well, come to my attention that it's kind of hard to find minutes to the public meetings that are being held. So just like what Dan was talking about this meeting, we don't know anything about it because sometimes you guys have these workshops that don't have minutes kept at them. And that's where you do a lot of your discussion and decision making. So if I can't come to these public meetings, which are the workshops, how do I know where you stand on things and where you're coming up with your decisions? I mean, we come to these meetings and you have this agenda and you just sign off on it. There's no discussion. We can look through the packets before the meeting, but we have no idea what discussion has taken place and where you're standing and why. And so I feel like we have a transparency problem. And I would like to request that we have minutes from these workshop meetings or any public meeting that's ever held, because you guys work for us and we need to know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm Bill Morgan. I live in the county. I see a progressing attitude of people in Craig trying to form a homeowner association from the county. Like most of the other people said, my traders or somebody else. My property is my property, and I have the right to do on that property. As an example, I used to live in Routt County, down by Keeper, between Keeper and Smith. Nobody could see my house from the roads. But I had somebody from Steamboat Springs come there over an issue that I had building a barn. They didn't like the design. and they wanted me to pay $700 and some for a variance to build a barn. That's just wrong. I don't want somebody in town telling me what I can do in.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm Casey Green. I live in Moffat County. I actually came here for a completely different reason. We held our Moffat County Cattlemen's annual meeting yesterday, and I just wanted to thank particularly Commissioner Broom for the work that he's done on the wolf plan. If you're not aware, that plan is really coming along and making some good compromises that represent landowners and agriculture in our part of the state. And I think it's becoming a plan that is amicable for everybody that we can live with. So I really want to thank you for all of your hard work on that. And then I know Jeff's going to do some comments later about that. So I do want to publicly thank you for that. As I wasn't aware of the ordinance that's coming up. So I guess I'll just make my position known on that when you start dictating what people can do on their private property, you're opening up a whole can of worms. And I don't think that's a good idea at all. So I would be opposed to that as well.
Thank you. Anybody else? One more time. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you for everyone that spoke. We will go into general discussion on for the commissioners. Have anything?
Yeah, I just was gonna share with you that on Friday, I received notice that I have been selected to participate in the Building Resilient Economies and Coal Communities. It's through the National Association of Counties. And there's two parts to the BREC. They're calling it the BREC Coal Communities Commitment Coalition. And part of it is the technical assistance grant that the Northwest Colorado Development Council is taking on to assist with the work we're trying to do in worker training, agricultural, and small business industry. All of the 5 places that we've identified are issues that we would need to work on. And then the coalition is 20 individuals who will be traveling 4 times in the next 2 years, going to other coal impacted communities to see kind of what some of their issues were, how they got around some of the things, and maybe see if we can learn from them, or maybe they can learn from us. So I just wanted to let you know that was announced on Friday.
Awesome. Congratulations or condolences, whichever.
Right.
Whichever is the best.
I don't know when the travel's set yet, so a mess.
Commissioner Broom? You have anything? All right. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 1, announcement of community volunteer boards and seat appointments.
I don't think there's any discussion in it.
So I could go through here and name them all, and then we can discuss if you have discussion for sure. Fair board to complete the term is Kern and Gerber. He would be taking Ian Duzik's spot that had to resign. Hamilton Community Center Board alternate is a 3-year term. Chuck Groby was put in, or Chuck Groby is who letter submitted by. MCTA Board is an alternate, is a 3-year term. Nanette Rosenbaum. And then Planning and Zoning 3-year term, Janelle Adams. Janalee, sorry. Yeah, Janalee.
I would just add that on the Hamilton Community Center Board, Chuck had, at the meeting that we appointed Sean Brookshire, he stated that he had sent a letter in and we had somehow missed it. So we had him resubmit and it went to junk, but we never found anything else. So we just want to make sure we put him back on as an alternate. We had a hard time getting that board started again. So appreciate him participating.
Okay, you done?
I can add to it if you like.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint the following people into the following volunteer board positions.
As presented.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Going on to item number 2 is our staff reports. This is Office of Development Services, Roy Tipton. The new courthouse project monthly progress report and pay applications. Fun time.
Yeah, good morning.
Getting close.
We're about 95% complete. We start punch list tomorrow and Thursday with the architect, so we are getting there. We're gonna stop the exterior work. We're trying to get the ADA requirements complete so we can get a temporary certificate of occupancy. As soon as that's done, we'll pull off until we get a spring thaw. We will complete the work out to US 40 as soon as we can this spring, summer, just so you know, once we get over there, we're gonna have still exterior work to do. All the floor covering's done. There's about 400 square feet of ceramic tile that's left. They were short. It's ordered and it'll be a timeline issue by the time we get over there, but that's all that's remaining. Looking for a TCO at the end of the month. And then we're starting to work through project closeouts. There's a lot of paperwork to get done from BHI to get through all that. And then we'll look at the pay apps for BHI, Trainer, and NWCC.
Have we heard anything back from CDOT on our entrance plan?
Yeah, we got the permit. Yeah, so it's just, right now I'm waiting on the asphalt pricing and then next time I see you, we'll probably have a change order for that, but that's paid for with the CDS grant. Yeah. I just left that photo up there just so we can see the outside. It's kind of hard to get a good picture right now. So I wanted to show you where we started a year ago. That is just inside the original entrance before we started any construction.
West.
Yeah, look, that's the garden center down there. So that's or west, sorry. Same spot, looking down that corridor. Just another photo of the clerk and recorder's office. And that's a little further back. You can see the security desk is almost installed. The front entrance is getting real close to being done. And this is looking south from the same spot. And that's what it looks like today. That's the corridor going back to the courtrooms. That's district court. Those benches are installed now. So just a closer look at the jury box. That's a jury deliberation room. That's the evidence storage room. That's the employee break room for the state side. And that's the county side employee break room. One of the public bathrooms. So where we have left to do TCO at the end of the month. And as soon as we get that, all the non-essential bookcases and records can start moving over there. We're doing all our moving in-house, so facilities start moving, getting ready for the main move in April. That is going to happen the week of April 10 through 15. The way the move will work, all of the county administration offices in this building, DHS, Tucker Street Clinic, and the extension office will be closed that week. So when we show up to work that day on the 10th, we got to start moving servers over. That means we won't have phones or email. There won't be any communication. There won't be any voicemail either. The emergency services will be set up for like DHS or DA or anybody that has to have 24-hour coverage will have it forwarded to a cell phone, but we can't do that for every office. We had hoped we'd be able to do this, have servers up both here and there, but the way it's going to work out, there's no way to pull that off. So the only way to do it is to shut down for that week. everybody will show up and work their regular work schedule. Their job that week is to move. So everybody's going to be working. Then we'll reopen to the public on the 17th at the new building. So just close for the 1 week and then back on the 17th. And that is the only week in the month of April where we could pull this off.
Bouncing between payroll and everything else, trying to make sure that those servers are up.
Yeah, there's a lot of services that the county provides, and it's really tough to be able to find a time where we could all do it. And then for judicial, they're going to be open here through Thursday of that week. So security will be here. They'll still have court, but they will not have jury trials. So while they're still operational, we're going to be moving out. And then security will open up on the 17th. Judicial will finish their move and they will open Wednesday, the 19th to the public.
And they and DHS are on state servers, not county servers, right?
Right, DHS, motor vehicle, elections, those are on.
State servers.
Yeah, so that's why it's complicated because there's 4 networks in this building. I mean, it's not just the county. There's a lot to coordinate.
We will be having our commissioner meeting that.
Yes,
that
so
day,
on the
and
11th.
The 11th here at this court, even though the courthouse is closed, we will still be having our commissioner meeting here.
So it will actually be in the main floor conference room.
Yeah.
Because after your March 28th meeting, all of this equipment starts coming down and get moved over there.
Just when we do our advertisement on, that we're closing that week, we need to make sure it's very clear in there that we have our meeting here.
Yes.
Still in the main floor conference room, just so people knows, even though the courthouse is closed, we're still hosting our commissioner meetings
Yes.
here. So
And we'll do that. We'll still be able to do, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we can use the owl and we'll makeshift with a laptop and Zoom. It won't be as slick as this, but we'll still be able to communicate. Yeah, with a hotspot. We'll start getting signs up too in front of all the offices to start communicating. We'll get it on social media, try to let everybody know as best we can. We have 2 months to get it done. Okay, so we'll move on to pay apps. We are on pay app number 15 for BHI. This is in the amount of $662,844.06. And then, do you want me to go through all or one at a time?
we can do one at a time, yeah.
And that one's already been approved by BHI and certified. So, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the BHI pay application number 15 in the amount of $662,844.06.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, trainer.
Okay, we'll move on to trainer pay app number 14 in the amount of $2,119.
Those are the ones we like.
Yeah.
And it's even better. Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the trainer pay application number 14 in the amount of $2,119.
Motion second and further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Next.
Next one is for NWCC. Their January invoice was $934.40.
Roll on. It says, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the NWCC pay app in the amount of $934.40.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just likes to make me feel better.
Yeah, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Last. but not
Last
least.
one is pay app number 2 to Workplace Resource in the amount of $102,000 $264.36.
What's that for, Roy? Just
That's the furniture and fixtures.
What was the total? 102, 264?
36.
Oh, roll on. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve pay app number 2 for workplace resources for $102,264.36.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right.
Then the last item is just this is the total payouts where we are to date. Total expenses through January are, read it off this one.
Yeah.
Are $19,804,170.25. Our total contracts are $21,725,675. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Roy. All right, next up, item number 3 is Office of Development Service, Candace Miller, for bid recommendations on facilities mower and then airport gates replacement.
Sharing. Thank you.
Good morning, Candace.
Good morning. So we went out to bid on RFP 202301 to replace the gate at the airport. We received,
So if we're gonna start with that one, I will just make it knowledge that I'm gonna excuse myself for this conversation that our company bid on this, and so I'm not gonna be a part of that first conversation. Chair, co-chair, vice chair, Commissioner Billard will take the lead on that.
yes, so we received one bid, which is within the budget. And so we recommend moving forward with that one bid. And then for RFP 202304, which was for a mower for the Moffett County Facilities Department, we did receive 2 bids, one local from Severson's and one from the Front Range from Colorado Golf and Turf. The Colorado Golf and Turf did actually supply 2 options, but the second option, which was a little lesser, did not match our scope. It was a 2020 model versus a 23 model. So based on the pricing and local availability of parts and maintenance, we recommend moving forward with Severson's. That's it.
I would entertain a motion on one or
Yeah.
vote.
No, I'll do them one at a time here. Move to approve the airport gate replacement bid to Ivory Chip Fencing in the amount of $46,992.38 as recommended.
Second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, and again, that was the only bid we got. Right?
Yes, it was.
Okay, that's it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And one abstaining. Motion carries.
Okay. I move to approve the facility more bid to Severson Supply in the amount of $15,251.76 as recommended.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I'll abstain just from the whole.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Abstaining. Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Candace.
Back to you.
Yeah, all right. Going to number 4, Office Emergency Management, Todd Wheeler, to adopt the resolution 2023-20, the adoption of Moffett County Courthouse Emergency Evacuation Plan. We have to have before we can get a occupancy, right?
Apparently, last minute, let's get it done. So, with due diligence from Roy, all the department heads, we were able to come up with a plan. And I believe it's been presented to you in the packet. And I'm asking that you approve the new evacuation plan to include the whole courthouse. Questions?
I skimmed through this thing, but it's like reading German to me, right? Like, I mean, it's not, I mean, it's, some of it's self-explanatory, some of it's just probably legal verbiage that we have to have in this thing.
The majority of it is legal verbiage. The primary area is the maps, the three maps. The rest boils down to pretty much common sense. That if we have an issue, we evacuate and you rendezvous at 3 points, and everybody, each department head is responsible to account for their personnel and public.
I didn't see it in here. Does it have in here in the evacuation plan that we would do a drill once a year so that everybody would know in different things? I didn't see it in here, but I really feel in that building, we almost have it. Is it in here?
It is in
I
there.
just overlooked
Yeah,
it.
it is in there. And that's part of the requirements that drills are conducted. It doesn't say how often, it just says drills will be conducted.
And I know Roy's gonna have emergency, all emergency offices that may need to participate in anything like that will be in the building before we move into the building and get the lay of the land. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll do it in March.
I did notice that you have to hold the handrails while walking down the stairs, and we won't have any stairs in our new ADA compliant building except for in the back in our
Back.
vestibule.
Yeah.
So.
One set of handrails, have to add that in.
And then I had a couple of extra just notes on cheat sheets that I can get with you later. Any other questions?
Nope, no other questions. Mr. Chair, I move to adopt resolution 2023-20 as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Together.
Motion carries. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate
you.
that. We do. All right, Jeff. Number 5, Natural Resource Department, Jeff Comstock to adopt Colorado Wolf Introduction Plan comments.
Yes. So in front of you is a set of comments that we'll ask your consideration for today, and it's regarding the wolf introduction plan. If you guys, anybody that's been in the cattlemen's meeting yesterday or land use board last night, this will probably be a repeat for you. But I just thought maybe I'd highlight a couple of the comments. So this is one of those things that nobody asked for, right? We didn't want to have to be able to introduce wolves in Colorado. That was not something that we supported, but we're in that spot where we have to deal with it now. And one of the gives, the question came up a couple times yesterday about, well, what did Western Colorado get out of this thing since we didn't vote for it? And honestly, between Commissioner Broom, between Tom Corliss, Lenny Klingel-Smith, Renee Deal, there were several appointments on the advisory board that guided this plan, that shaped it tremendously. And I wanted to highlight a couple of the things in there that really are beneficial to us. One of the things is lethal take. One of the options that's in that plan under the right conditions is you get to defend your property, you get to defend your livestock. And it was because of the stakeholder advisory group, Donald's group, that there was both compensation for direct losses. So in other words, a wolf kills an animal, and indirect losses, weaning weights, conception rates, production factors that in livestock that go down. There's compensation, financial compensation authorized in that plan. And those are two massive things that you don't see. That indirect compensation, you don't see that in other states. And the ability to deal with lethal take right off the back is critical. And it was in there solely because that SAG group really pushed it. Our comments, I'll highlight 3 of our biggest comments. There's about 5 pages of comments in that are in front of you today, but 3 of the biggest ones are the 10J rule, the compensation ratios, and then private property issues. So on that 10J rule, that's the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services rule that needs to be in place for the ability to control and manage wolves. And that doesn't happen through the state plan. That's a completely separate process. And one of the comments that and it's gained a lot of traction since this has been talked about for the last few months, but that we ask that wolves don't get introduced if the 10J rule is not in place, which is the rule the Fish and Wildlife Service puts on the ground to manage endangered species. And that's one of the rules that offers lethal take. Without that, the feds override the state and you don't get that option for lethal take. That comment has gained enough traction over the last few months that even Senator Perry Will, and Senator Dylan Roberts are jointly, they've pulled a bill title to write a bill that says wolves can't be introduced in Colorado unless 10J is up and functioning as a rule from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And talking even with other Democrat legislators at Club 20, there seems to be a lot of support for that. And so I think that just helps bolster these kind of comments we're making. The second thing on the compensation ratios, right now they're dedicated to calves, beef calves, and sheep, all classes of sheep. And we ask very clearly for something the SAG group recommended, which was yearling beef to cattle to be put into that compensation ratio. There's so many operators, especially as you get up valley into Grand County and stuff, that are yearling operations. And so the direct take, I'll just clarify that you can directly take any species, but the compensation ratios only apply right now to calves and sheep. And we're asking for yearlings. And ironically, at the rifle meeting last week, one of the wildlife commissioners very much supported that yearling concept. There was a tone of support for that within the commission. So maybe that won't be such a big hurdle to overcome. Personally, we say in our comments, they should apply to any animal. It shouldn't apply to just beef and sheep. If you've got proof of wolf damage, I don't care if it's a goat or a horse or anything, should apply to the compensation ratios. But we think politically, yearlings are the things that have the greatest chance of getting added. And then finally, there are the Wildlife Commission, the SAG group, they've all advised that all this applies to any sets of land, private, state, federal. There's awkward language in the plan that really points out that the compensation goes to livestock that are tied to on private parcels of land. And we've talked with the drafters of this plan about that language. They claim it's not intended to focus only on private land, that you can get compensated on any lands, especially, and this is relevant because of grazing permits, right? However, it's still in the plan. So we're asking that clarity be added, that you can get compensated on any ownership of land. So that's generally the highlights of the comments you're signing. I know you guys have all, Donald's lived and breathed this for a year and a half. You guys have been in meetings. Anything you want to add here, please do. I'll say one thing. The deadline for comments is the 22nd.
Just wrote that down. Yeah, because I thought that's important for sure. Commissioner Broom?
No, it was, when I got appointed to that SAG group, when you dealing with the people on the Eastern Slope, at first I thought, well, we just wasting our time, But CPW, they really listened to what the SAG group had to say, and they wanted to make it work because they only knew we had one shot at the coming up with this. And now we're at the point that you're dealing with people that's been appointed by the governor on the Wildlife Commission. And to me, there's only a few people on there that I really think gets it or understands it. So I just hope, and like you say, all these meetings with this comments and everything, that the Wildlife Commission comes around and listen to our recommendations and just go with it.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's important. Like, this plan's great, is way better than we thought it was, but they can still change it. And I think that's the scary part, is that, in Rifle, Commissioner Broom, myself, and 70 others spoke at this and about 97 or 98% were saying, keep the plan the way it is. Don't change it. There was 3 or 4 people that said, you should never hunt a wolf, and you shouldn't. And even the Game Commission stated there, one that I thought was on our side, stated, I don't think you should ever give tags out for this, especially if out of state hunter. We should never give tags. And I was like, I thought he's a rancher. I was thinking, man, I thought this guy was on our side. And he made a public comment that I don't think you should ever give tags. So as much as I'm confident that this is a great plan or better plan than we expected, it's scary to me that we don't have it sealed deal. And I haven't put as much time as Commissioner Broom. By no means. I probably spoke at 10 or 12 of those different commenting periods, but by February 22nd, the last day, they're doing 2 meetings. They're doing a virtual meeting this week. It's this week, a virtual meeting that you could sign up to speak at. And then they're doing a live meeting in Denver. Last week was in Rifle, or 2 weeks ago was in Rifle. And then, but you can sign a letter and send it. And if you need help, anybody need help, we got letters that we can give you to help you write those. But they have to be in by February 22nd. Yeah. And I think as many people as we can get to, especially ranchers, and
The sooner the better.
the sooner the better, because their mind's kind of made up, I think just
Well, it's not their mind kind of made up. You got to remember, they appointed by the governor.
for sure. Yep.
So, you know where that goes, the governor will tell them what they need to do. And that's what we talked about at that last meeting. Don't let this be political. Make the right decisions.
Yeah. Don't let
We didn't ask for it. Yeah. And I just like to tell this story because through this SAG group, when we start talking about compensation, and the gal said, you know what, why do you ranchers think you need compensation for your animals? She said, if I had a pen full of chickens and a wolf got in, or a coyote and ate my chickens, I wouldn't want to be compensated for that. So it took me the rest of that afternoon when she was still there, and I said, you know what? I said, now you talked about having a chicken house and the fox getting in and everything. I said, what about if you had this chicken house, you had the door closed, and old Donald Broom here walked up there with a fox, open your door, threw the fox in and closed the door. Would you want compensation? She said, yeah, I would want compensation. I said, well, that's how the ranchers feel that you guys are doing, introducing these wolves. And then that made sense to her, but it took that little scenario for her to get it.
Did you also share with her the percentage of the livelihood that the chickens pay for versus the percentage of the livelihood?
Eggs are pretty expensive.
That's not the chicken right now, right?
I think up to 1% with it. But when you have an agricultural operation that makes one check a year.
Yeah, 100%.
And that percentage.
Yeah, and I will say one other thing that was interesting, and there was a few people that said it, that was for the wolves. And they said if they knew what they knew now, today, they would have never voted for those wolves. Yeah, because they didn't realize the other stuff that could happen, that them wolves will take babies while their mama's having them or whatever, so they didn't understand that. So,
Or maim but not kill.
Kill, yeah.
I think the other thing that was important to bring up too is where they're looking at introducing them.
Uh-huh.
If you want to share that.
Yeah, there's actually, it's kind of funny, throughout the whole process, you've heard many of the people say, if you're going to introduce wolves, put them over on the Front Range, right? Put them in Denver or something. We didn't vote for them.
And where people voted for 'em.
Ironically, there is a lot of people that are satisfied about where the first introductions will be. And it's interesting. It's right along the I-70 corridor between Vail and Glenwood Springs. And of course, not on the highway, but the country north and south of that will be the first location. And I've got a little map that kind of shows this is actually Vail and Glenwood Springs, and that's that green circle is the boundaries that they've identified. And they did it based on identifying where the least amount of conflict with people would be and the most ecological suitability, the habitat that wolves would live in. And that is what came out as the highest priority in the state. And then they also had some buffers that the SAG group backed, which is saying you can't be 60 miles from a state line or 60 miles from an Indian reservation or even, and that really left the priority between Vail and Glenwood Springs, north and south a ways. And then second choice, if that area is filled up with wolves, is that Highway 50 corridor between Montrose and Denison. So those are the target areas. Now, with that said, how many miles a day does a wolf run? I mean, 60, 70 miles a day if they want. So it's, but that is the introduction area.
It's gonna have a successful work.
Yeah.
And I think the only other thing I would say is that when they get to the level that they feel like they should maybe be managed, that doesn't necessarily mean hunting. There's other options for management that they should be considering.
I feel that's critical, that it's worth saying that they publicly state in this plan, there is no population target, and that's
Max.
Frustrating. They're basically after 150 to 200 wolves, the listing status and things go away and they have the ability to manage population, but they leave that to another process. They don't set a cap on it this time, and that's highly frustrating.
Which every other species has a cap.
Absolutely.
And I think somebody made the statement there, which I thought was one of the best statements, and I don't know who did it, but made the statement that if you don't manage them, if you don't have a plan to manage them, what ends up happening is the CPW ends up managing them. Just like they do when they took away the spring bear hunt. Guess who, when a bear gets into sheep, and guess who gets to manage those? Government trappers, and the government, CPW gets to manage them instead of having a set season that manages them. Now you put that into the taxpayers' pockets that are going to manage them. And the one confident thing that I had, and then we can go on, that every one of the Wildlife Commission said was that we have to figure out how to pay for this without taxing the taxpayers or the sportsmen. And that was like one thing that I felt like every one of them agreed on, that, hey, if you voted this in and the governor wants this, he needs to figure out how to pay for it without being on the backs of sportsmen and landowners. And so, I mean, that was the one confident thing that I felt like they all agreed on. And so hopefully they can figure that out, which we all know still comes from taxpayers, right? So no matter how we look at it, it still comes. All right.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'll move to adopt the Moffett County Wolf introduction plan comments as presented.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Last but not least, Aaron Gilling. We're going to do a presentation of, we did this last year as well. 2 years, I think a couple of years anyway in a row, huh?
The last 2 years.
Yeah, okay. It's Colorado Crane Conservation Coalition. It's a proclamation week.
Well, this is going to be a tough act to follow after wolves. Myself and Nancy Merrill came the last 2 years to also proclaim this Greater Sandhill Crane Week. My name is Erin Gelling, and I've been here before. I'm the executive director of the Colorado Crane Conservation Coalition. And we would like to proclaim March 1st through 8th for 2023 Greater Sandhill Crane Week. They are an iconic species in the valley in both Moffett and Routt counties. They are a long-lived species, very old bird, dating back 2.5 million years and as much as 10 million years old. They have slow reproduction, and so they're a very important part of our Yampa Valley. And we want to proclaim this week to kind of celebrate the birds, celebrate their return to the valley in the spring, and help raise awareness of local wildlife here in Moffett.
I believe you guys do. Are you guys doing whoever takes the first picture and then they get some money? And I know some high school kid or some kids from Moffett County have won that in the past.
Yeah, so we have several different contests that we help to raise awareness of sandhill cranes. And so one is the first crane sighting contest, which begins as soon as the cranes come back, and they typically come back to Moffett County first. And anybody can enter the contest, just take a picture or video of cranes and send it in to us. And we give out prizes for the first sighting of sandhill cranes. And then what's the other thing that you're talking about is our Creative Arts Scholarship Contest that's also going on right now for high school seniors.
That's right.
Yep, and we have had people in Moffett County win the scholarship contest. So yeah, so proclaiming Greater Sandhill Crane Week is part of a larger goal to raise awareness of sandhill cranes and just wildlife and the habitats that they depend on, like wetlands.
you like to read that in, or would you just, we've read it before, do you want to read that in too?
We have read it before. It's the same as the last 2 years. I
So you're
guess
good
that's
with
up
it?
it's up to you guys.
Totally up to you. If you would like to read it into proclamation, you can, or if not, we could just
You
vote
can
on
also
it.
post it on our social media.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to proclaim the week of March 1st through 8th, 2023 to be Greater Sandhill Crane Week in Moffett County.
Second.
Motion in a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
And we'll also share your social media posts as you guys have them through that week.
Thank you. All right, I think that is it. Our next board meeting will be February 28th at 8:30.